Unit 1. Indian Economy and Business Environment. Nature and Scope. The Indian economy and business environment refer to the economic and business conditions prevailing in India. India is the world's seventh largest economy and one of the fastest growing major economies in the world. The nature and scope of the Indian economy and business environment can be summarized as follows. Diversified economy. The Indian economy is characterized by its diversified nature, with various sectors such as agriculture, manufacturing, services, and information technology contributing to its growth. Large market size. India is home to a large population, which provides a huge market for businesses. The country's growing middle class is creating a demand for a range of goods and services, making it an attractive destination for foreign investment. Demographic dividend. India has a young and educated workforce, which presents an opportunity for businesses to tap into a skilled labor pool. The country's demographic dividend can help to drive growth and innovation in various sectors. Government initiatives. The Indian government has introduced various initiatives to promote entrepreneurship and business growth, such as the Startup India program, Make in India, and Digital India. These initiatives aim to create a favorable business environment and promote innovation and job creation. Challenges. Despite its growth potential, the Indian economy and business environment face various challenges, such as infrastructure bottlenecks, regulatory hurdles, and bureaucratic red tape. These challenges can create barriers to entry and impede business growth. Structure of the business environment. Internal. The Indian economy and business environment are complex and diverse, with a mix of traditional and modern practices, varying levels of development across different regions and sectors, and a range of regulatory and policy frameworks. The business environment can be broadly divided into two categories: internal and external factors. Internal factors refer to the factors that are within the control of the business organization and include the following. Management. The quality of management plays a critical role in the success of a business. Indian companies need to have competent managers who are capable of making sound business decisions, managing resources effectively, and adapting to changes in the business environment. Human resources. The quality of the workforce is another important internal factor that affects business success. India has a large and diverse workforce, and companies need to have effective recruitment, training, and retention strategies to attract and retain the best talent. Financial resources. The availability of financial resources is essential for business growth and expansion. Indian companies need to have access to adequate capital, both debt and equity, to fund their operations and investments. Technology. Technology is a critical enabler of business competitiveness and innovation. Indian companies need to adopt and integrate the latest technologies into their operations to remain competitive and meet the evolving needs of customers. Infrastructure. Adequate infrastructure, including transportation, communication, and power, is essential for business operations. Indian companies need to invest in infrastructure to ensure efficient and effective business operations. Culture. India has a diverse and complex cultural environment, and companies need to be sensitive to cultural differences and adapt their business practices accordingly. Structure of the business environment. External environment. The external environment refers to the factors that are outside the control of the business organization but can still have a significant impact on its operations and performance. The external environment of the Indian economy and business environment can be broadly divided into 6 categories. Economic environment. The economic environment includes factors such as economic growth, inflation, interest rates, exchange rates, and government policies that affect the overall business environment. Indian companies need to be aware of the economic conditions and trends in the country and adjust their strategies accordingly. Political and legal environment. The political and legal environment includes factors such as government policies, regulations, and laws that affect business operations. Indian companies need to comply with relevant laws and regulations and navigate the complex political environment to succeed. Sociocultural environment. The sociocultural environment includes factors such as cultural norms, values, beliefs, and social trends that can affect business operations. Indian companies need to be aware of these factors and adapt their strategies accordingly. Technological environment. The technological environment includes factors such as advancements in technology, research and development, and innovation. Indian companies need to keep pace with the latest technological developments to remain competitive. Competitive environment. The competitive environment includes factors such as the number and strength of competitors, the level of competition, and the barriers to entry. Indian companies need to develop effective competitive strategies to succeed in this environment. Natural environment. The natural environment includes factors such as climate, geography, natural resources, and environmental regulations. Indian companies need to be aware of environmental issues and implement sustainable business practices to protect the environment and meet regulatory requirements. Political and legal environment. Overview. Political system. The political system of India is a federal parliamentary democratic republic, with a president as the head of state and a prime minister as the head of government. The country is divided into 28 states and 8 union territories, each with their own government and legislative assembly. The central government has significant powers over issues such as defense, foreign affairs, and the economy, while the state governments have authority over issues such as health, education, and agriculture. Companies Act 2013. The Companies Act 2013 is a comprehensive legislation that governs the formation, management, and operation of companies in India. The Act replaced the Companies Act 1956 and introduced several significant changes to the legal framework governing companies in India. The Companies Act 2013 aims to promote better corporate governance, enhance transparency and accountability, and provide greater protection to shareholders and other stakeholders. Some of the key provisions of the Act include: incorporation of companies. The Act provides for the incorporation of various types of companies, including private companies, public companies, one-person companies, and producer companies. Directors' responsibility. The Act places a greater emphasis on the responsibilities and duties of directors and requires them to act in the best interests of the company and its stakeholders. Shareholders' rights. The Act provides greater protection to shareholders' rights and strengthens their ability to participate in the management and decision-making process of the company. Corporate social responsibility, CSR. The Act makes it mandatory for certain companies to spend a specified percentage of their profits on CSR activities. Financial reporting. The Act introduces stricter requirements for financial reporting and auditing, with a focus on greater transparency and accountability. Mergers and acquisitions. The Act provides for a more streamlined process for mergers and acquisitions, with greater emphasis on shareholder protection and transparency. Investor protection. The Act provides greater protection to investors and strengthens the regulatory framework for listed companies. Competition Act 2002. The Competition Act 2002 is a comprehensive legislation that governs competition law in India. The Act aims to promote and sustain competition in markets, prevent anti-competitive practices, and protect the interests of consumers in India. The key provisions of the Competition Act 2002 include: prohibition of anti-competitive agreements. The Act prohibits any agreement or practice that has the effect of preventing, restricting or distorting competition in any way. Abuse of dominant position. The Act prohibits any entity from abusing its dominant position in the market to restrict or eliminate competition. Regulation of combinations. The Act provides for the regulation of mergers, acquisitions, and other combinations that may have an adverse effect on competition in the market. Competition Commission of India. The Act establishes the Competition Commission of India, CCI, as an independent regulatory body responsible for the enforcement of competition law in India. Powers of the CCI. The CCI has the power to investigate and impose penalties for anti-competitive practices, approve or reject mergers and acquisitions, and promote competition advocacy and awareness. Leniency provisions. The Act provides leniency provisions for entities that voluntarily disclose anti-competitive practices, cooperate with the CCI, and provide evidence to support investigations. Appellate Tribunal. The Act provides for the establishment of the Competition Appellate Tribunal, CAT, as an independent appellate body to hear appeals against the decisions of the CCI. Economic environment. Overview. Nature of Indian economy. The Indian economy is the sixth largest economy in the world by nominal GDP and the third largest by purchasing power parity, PPP. It is a mixed economy that is characterized by a combination of The Act aims to promote and sustain competition in markets, prevent anti-competitive practices, and protect the interests of consumers in India. The key provisions of the Competition Act 2002 include prohibition of anti-competitive agreements. The Act prohibits any agreement or practice that has the effect of preventing, restricting or distorting competition in any way. Abuse of dominant position. The Act prohibits any entity from abusing its dominant position in the market to restrict or eliminate competition. Regulation of combinations. The Act provides for the regulation of mergers, acquisitions, and other combinations that may have an adverse effect on competition in the market. Competition Commission of India. The Act establishes the Competition Commission of India, CCI, as an independent regulatory body responsible for the enforcement of competition law in India. Powers of the CCI. The CCI has the power to investigate and impose penalties for anti-competitive practices, approve or reject mergers and acquisitions, and promote competition advocacy and awareness. Leniency provisions. The Act provides leniency provisions for entities that voluntarily disclose anti-competitive practices, cooperate with the CCI, and provide evidence to support investigations. Appellate Tribunal. The Act provides for the establishment of the Competition Appellate Tribunal, CAT, as an independent appellate body to hear appeals against the decisions of the CCI. Economic environment. Overview. Nature of Indian economy. The Indian economy is the sixth largest economy in the world by nominal GDP and the third largest by purchasing power parity, PPP. It is a mixed economy that is characterized by a combination of market-oriented policies and state intervention. The Indian economy has undergone significant changes since the liberalization of the economy in 1991. The liberalization process aimed to open up the Indian economy to global markets, promote private enterprise and entrepreneurship, and increase foreign investment. As a result, India has emerged as a significant player in the global economy, with a growing middle class and a large consumer market. The Indian economy is driven by several sectors, including agriculture, industry, and services. Agriculture is a significant contributor to the Indian economy, employing around half of the workforce and accounting for around 17% of the country's GDP. The industrial sector, including manufacturing, mining, and construction, accounts for around 29% of GDP, while the services sector, including IT, finance, and tourism, is the largest contributor to GDP, accounting for around 54%. Despite significant progress in recent years, the Indian economy faces several challenges, including high levels of poverty and inequality, a large informal sector, and infrastructure bottlenecks. The government has implemented several measures to address these challenges, including the implementation of social welfare programs and investments in infrastructure and skill development. Features of Indian economy. Some of the key features of the Indian economy include large population. India has a large population of over 1.3 billion people, making it the second most populous country in the world. High GDP growth. Despite facing challenges, the Indian economy has seen consistent GDP growth over the past few years, with an average growth rate of around 7%. Dual economy. The Indian economy is characterized by a dual economy, with both modern and traditional sectors coexisting. While the modern sector is rapidly growing, the traditional sector, which includes agriculture and informal activities, still employs a significant portion of the workforce. Service-oriented economy. The services sector is the largest contributor to India's GDP, accounting for around 54% of the country's economic output. Demographic dividend. India has a young population, with over 65% of the population under the age of 35. This demographic dividend has the potential to drive growth and innovation in the economy. Regional diversity. India is a country of diverse cultures and regions, with significant differences in economic development and infrastructure between states. Government intervention. The Indian economy has traditionally seen significant government intervention in the form of regulations and policies, although recent years have seen efforts towards deregulation and privatization. Technological advancements. The Indian economy has seen significant technological advancements in recent years, particularly in the areas of information technology and telecommunications. Informal sector. The Indian economy also has a large informal sector, which includes unregistered businesses and self-employed individuals. This sector plays a significant role in the Indian economy, particularly in terms of employment generation. Economic environment. Changes in recent times. The Indian economy has undergone significant changes in recent times, driven by both domestic and global factors. Some of the key changes include economic liberalization. In 1991, the Indian government introduced economic liberalization policies, which included reducing barriers to trade and investment, privatization of state-owned enterprises, and deregulation of industries. These reforms led to significant economic growth, increased foreign investment, and a shift towards a market-oriented economy. Digitalization. The rapid expansion of the digital economy has transformed various sectors in the Indian economy, such as retail, banking, and communication. The adoption of digital payments, e-commerce platforms, and cloud technology has brought about significant efficiency gains and improved access to services for consumers. GST implementation. The implementation of the Goods and Services Tax, GST, in 2017 has streamlined the tax system in India, reducing the complexity of the tax structure and improving compliance. The GST has also led to the integration of various state-level taxes into a single tax system, promoting ease of doing business in the country. Infrastructure development. The Indian government has focused on improving infrastructure in recent years, with significant investments in transportation, energy, and communication infrastructure. This has led to improved connectivity, reduced transportation costs, and increased access to services in remote areas. Shift towards services sector. The Indian economy has seen a shift towards the services sector, which has emerged as the largest contributor to GDP. This has been driven by growth in sectors such as IT, finance, and tourism, which have benefited from globalization and increased connectivity. Demographic changes. India has a young population, and recent years have seen significant changes in the demographic profile of the country. Urbanization, increasing education levels, and changing social norms have led to changes in consumer behavior and preferences, driving demand for new products and services. Socio-cultural environment. Socio-cultural factors affecting the business. The socio-cultural environment in India plays a significant role in shaping the business environment. Some of the key socio-cultural factors that affect businesses in India are diversity. India is a diverse country with different languages, religions, and cultural practices. This diversity can pose a challenge for businesses that need to understand the different cultural norms and preferences of their customers and employees. Family values. Family values play a significant role in Indian society, and businesses need to be sensitive to this while designing their products and services. For example, companies may need to consider the role of family members in decision-making while marketing their products or services. Gender roles. Traditional gender roles are still prevalent in Indian society, and businesses need to be aware of this while designing their products and services. For example, products that are targeted towards women may need to be designed differently from products that are targeted towards men. Education. Education is highly valued in Indian society, and businesses need to cater to the increasing demand for educational products and services. This includes not just formal education, but also vocational training and skill development. Religion. Religion plays an important role in Indian society, and businesses need to be sensitive to religious beliefs while designing their products and services. For example, businesses may need to consider the religious sentiments of their customers while marketing their products or services. Consumer behavior. Consumer behavior in India is influenced by cultural factors, and businesses need to understand these factors while designing their products and services. For example, customers may prefer products that are eco-friendly or products that have a cultural significance. Globalization impact on the Indian economy across various sectors. Globalization has had a significant impact on the Indian economy across various sectors. Some of the key impacts of globalization are: manufacturing sector. Globalization has led to the growth of the manufacturing sector in India. Increased foreign investment and the growth of export-oriented industries have contributed to the expansion of the manufacturing sector in India. However, the sector has also faced challenges due to competition from low-cost manufacturing hubs such as China and Vietnam. Services sector. The services sector in India has been a major beneficiary of globalization. The growth of industries such as IT, business process outsourcing, BPO, and tourism has contributed to the expansion of the services sector in India. The services sector has also been instrumental in creating high-paying jobs and contributing to the growth of the Indian economy. Agriculture sector. Globalization has had mixed impacts on the agriculture sector in India. Increased competition from global players has led to the decline of traditional agricultural sectors, such as cotton and jute. However, the growth of export-oriented crops such as rice, spices, and fruits has contributed to the expansion of the agriculture sector in India. Financial sector. The financial sector in India has been significantly impacted by globalization. The growth of foreign investment and the liberalization of the financial sector have led to the growth of the banking, insurance, and capital markets in India. The financial sector has also played a key role in facilitating foreign investment and supporting economic growth. Retail sector. The retail sector in India has been impacted by globalization through the entry of foreign players such as Walmart and Amazon. The growth of e-commerce has also contributed to the expansion of the retail sector in India. However, the entry of foreign players has led to concerns regarding the impact on traditional retailers and small businesses. Technological environment, technology and development. The technological environment plays a crucial role in the development of the Indian economy. Over the past few decades, there has been significant progress in the development of technology in India. Some of the key factors that have contributed to this progress are: government initiatives. The Indian government has launched several initiatives to promote the development of technology in the country. For example, the Digital India campaign was launched to promote the use of digital technology in various sectors such as education, healthcare, and agriculture. Startup ecosystem. The startup ecosystem in India has grown significantly over the past few years. Several innovative and technology-driven startups have emerged, contributing to the development of technology in the country. Education and research. Education and research have played a crucial role in the development of technology in India. Several world-class institutions such as the Indian Institutes of Technology, IITs, and the Indian Institutes of Management, IIMs, have contributed to the development of technology in the country. Collaboration with global players. India has collaborated with global players to develop technology in the country. For example, the development of 5G technology in India has been a collaborative effort between the Indian government and global players such as Ericsson and Nokia. The development of technology has had several impacts on the Indian economy. Some of the key impacts are: increased productivity. Technology has led to increased productivity in various sectors such as manufacturing, agriculture, and services. This has contributed to the growth of the Indian economy. Job creation. The development of technology has led to the creation of several high-paying jobs in various sectors such as IT, telecommunications, and e-commerce. Improved access to services. Technology has improved access to services such as healthcare, education, and finance in India. For example, telemedicine has improved access to healthcare services in rural areas. Increased competitiveness. Technology has made Indian businesses more competitive in the global market. The growth of the IT sector and the development of e-commerce have contributed to the growth of Indian businesses in the global market. Integrating technology with business. Integrating technology with business is becoming increasingly important in today's world. Technology can help businesses streamline operations, improve efficiency, and reduce costs. Here are some ways businesses can integrate technology into their operations. Automating processes. Automation can help businesses save time and reduce errors. For example, using software to automate accounting tasks can reduce the need for manual data entry and reduce the risk of errors. Using cloud-based services. Cloud-based services allow businesses to access software and data from anywhere, at any time. This can improve collaboration and make it easier for employees to work remotely. Implementing customer relationship management (CRM) software. CRM software can help businesses manage customer interactions and track customer data. This can help businesses improve customer service and target marketing efforts more effectively. Using data analytics. Data analytics can help businesses make informed decisions based on data. By analyzing customer data, businesses can identify trends and make data-driven decisions. Adopting digital marketing. Digital marketing can help businesses reach a wider audience and target customers more effectively. By using tools like social media, email marketing, and search engine optimization (SEO), businesses can improve their online presence and attract more customers. Investing in cybersecurity. As businesses become more reliant on technology, they become more vulnerable to cyber attacks. Investing in cybersecurity can help businesses protect their data and prevent data breaches. MBE Unit 2. Basic economic concepts, primary, secondary and tertiary sectors and their contribution to the economy. Basic economic concepts. Economics is the study of how societies allocate scarce resources to produce goods and services that meet human wants and needs. Some of the basic economic concepts include scarcity, the fact that resources are limited while human wants are infinite. Opportunity cost, the cost of choosing one option over another, which is the value of the next best alternative. Supply and demand, the interaction between the quantity of goods or services that producers are willing to provide and the quantity that consumers are willing to buy. Market equilibrium, the point at which the quantity of goods or services supplied equals the quantity demanded, resulting in a stable price. Primary sector. The primary sector is the sector of the economy that deals with the extraction and production of raw materials from the natural environment. This includes agriculture, forestry, fishing, mining, and oil and gas extraction. Primary sector activities are often the basis for other economic activities in secondary and tertiary sectors. Contribution to the economy. In many developing countries, the primary sector is a significant contributor to the economy, providing employment and raw materials for manufacturing and export. Even in developed economies, the primary sector still plays an important role in supporting the food supply chain and other key industries. Secondary sector. The secondary sector is the sector of the economy that involves the processing and manufacturing of raw materials into finished goods. This includes industries such as construction, manufacturing, and energy production. Secondary sector activities often rely on the outputs of primary sector activities. Contribution to the economy. The secondary sector is a key driver of economic growth and industrialization, creating jobs, and adding value to raw materials. In developed economies, the secondary sector is often a major source of GDP and exports. Tertiary sector. The tertiary sector is the sector of the economy that provides services to consumers and businesses. This includes industries such as healthcare, education, transportation, retail, and finance. Tertiary sector activities often rely on the outputs of both primary and secondary sector activities. The tertiary sector is typically the largest sector in developed economies. Contribution to the economy. The tertiary sector is an important contributor to the economy, providing a wide range of services that support businesses and individuals. In developed economies, the tertiary sector is often the largest source of employment and GDP. SWOT analysis for the Indian economy. SWOT analysis is a framework for evaluating the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of an entity. In the case of the Indian economy, the following SWOT analysis can be conducted. Strengths. Demographic dividend. India has a young population with a median age of 28 years, which is expected to contribute to a growing workforce and consumer market. IT services. India is a global hub for IT services, with a large pool of skilled professionals and low labor costs, which has contributed to the growth of the country's service sector. Economic reforms. India has implemented economic reforms such as liberalization, privatization, and globalization, which have helped to attract foreign investment and stimulate economic growth. Natural resources. India has a diverse range of natural resources, including minerals, agricultural land, and renewable energy sources, which can be leveraged for economic development. Weaknesses. Infrastructure. India's infrastructure, including roads, ports, and airports, is inadequate and requires significant investment and improvement. Income inequality. Despite economic growth, income inequality in India remains high, with a large percentage of the population living in poverty. Labor laws. India's labor laws are complex and restrictive, which can discourage investment and job creation. Education and healthcare. Education and healthcare in India remain underfunded and suffer from poor quality, which can limit the country's human capital potential. Opportunities. Manufacturing. India has the potential to become a global manufacturing hub, with a large workforce and low labor costs. E-commerce. The growth of e-commerce in India presents opportunities for businesses to reach a large and growing consumer market. Infrastructure development. Improving infrastructure can create jobs, boost economic growth, and attract investment. Clean energy. India has significant potential for renewable energy development, which can reduce dependence on fossil fuels and contribute to climate change mitigation. Threats. Global economic slowdown. A global economic slowdown could negatively impact India's export-oriented industries and foreign investment inflows. Geopolitical tensions. Tensions with neighboring countries, such as China and Pakistan, could disrupt trade and investment flows. Climate change. Climate change can have negative impacts on agriculture, water resources, and human health in India. Inflation. Inflation can erode purchasing power and reduce consumer demand, which can impact economic growth. Measuring the economy. Measuring GDP and GDP growth rate. Gross domestic product, GDP, is the most commonly used measure of economic activity and is used to gauge the size and growth of an economy. It measures the total value of goods and services produced within a country's borders during a specific period, usually a year or a quarter. GDP is calculated by adding up the value of all final goods and services produced within a country, regardless of the nationality of the producer. To calculate GDP, there are three methods. Production approach. This method measures GDP as the sum of value added in each sector of the economy. Value added is the difference between the measuring the economy, measuring GDP and GDP growth rate. Gross domestic product, GDP, is the most commonly used measure of economic activity and is used to gauge the size and growth of an economy. It measures the total value of goods and services produced within a country's borders during a specific period, usually a year or a quarter. GDP is calculated by adding up the value of all final goods and services produced within a country, regardless of the nationality of the producer. To calculate GDP, there are three methods. Production approach. This method measures GDP as the sum of value added in each sector of the economy. Value added is the difference between the value of inputs used in production and the value of outputs produced. Expenditure approach. This method measures GDP as the sum of all expenditures on final goods and services, including personal consumption expenditures, investment, government spending, and net exports, exports minus imports. Income approach. This method measures GDP as the sum of all income earned in the economy, including wages, salaries, profits, and rents. GDP growth rate is a measure of the change in GDP over a specific period of time, usually a year or a quarter. It is calculated as the percentage change in GDP from one period to the next. A positive GDP growth rate indicates that the economy is growing, while a negative GDP growth rate indicates that the economy is contracting. The formula for calculating GDP growth rate is as follows. GDP growth rate is equal to GDP in current period, GDP in previous period, GDP in previous period, x 100. For example, if a country's GDP in the first quarter of the year is $1 trillion and in the second quarter it is $1.1 trillion, the GDP growth rate for the second quarter would be GDP growth rate is equal to 1.1 trillion, 1 trillion, 1 trillion, x 100 is equal to 10%. A high GDP growth rate indicates that the economy is expanding, while a low GDP growth rate indicates slower growth or even a contraction. A sustained high GDP growth rate is generally associated with low unemployment rates, rising incomes, and improving living standards. However, it is important to note that GDP growth rate alone does not necessarily indicate the overall health or well-being of an economy, as it does not capture factors such as income distribution, environmental sustainability, or social welfare. Components of GDP. Gross domestic product, GDP, is the total value of goods and services produced within a country's borders during a specific period, usually a year or a quarter. The components of GDP include personal consumption expenditures. See, this is the total amount spent by households on goods and services, including durable goods, such as cars and appliances, non-durable goods, such as food and clothing, and services, such as healthcare and education. Gross private domestic investment, this is the total amount spent on new capital goods, such as machinery and equipment, new construction, such as factories and office buildings, and changes in inventories. Government consumption expenditures and gross investment, this includes all government spending on goods and services, including defense, infrastructure, education, and healthcare. Net exports, NX, this is the difference between exports, the value of goods and services produced domestically and sold abroad, and imports, the value of goods and services produced abroad and sold domestically. Therefore, the formula for calculating GDP is GDP is equal to C plus I plus G plus NX. It's important to note that only final goods and services are included in GDP. Intermediate goods, which are used in the production of final goods and services, are excluded to avoid double counting. For example, the value of steel used in the production of a car is not included in GDP, but the value of the car itself is. Additionally, the underground economy, which includes illegal activities and unreported income, is not included in GDP. This can make it difficult to accurately measure the size and growth of an economy. Business cycle features, phases. Business cycle refers to the fluctuations in economic activity that occur over time, resulting in periods of expansion and contraction. The business cycle is characterized by 4 distinct phases, each with its own unique features. Expansion. This is the period of growth in economic activity, with rising levels of GDP, employment, and consumer spending. During this phase, businesses are optimistic about the future, leading to increased investment, innovation, and consumer confidence. Peak. The peak marks the end of the expansion phase, where the economy reaches its maximum output and growth rates start to slow down. Employment levels are high, and consumer and business confidence is at its highest point. However, inflationary pressures may also start to rise. Contraction, also known as a recession, This is the period of declining economic activity. During this phase, GDP, employment, and consumer spending start to decrease, leading to lower business profits and increased unemployment. Consumer and business confidence declines, leading to reduced investment and a negative economic outlook. Trough. The trough marks the end of the contraction phase, where the economy reaches its lowest point, with the lowest levels of GDP, employment, and consumer spending. However, this phase also signals the start of a new expansion phase. Some of the key features of the business cycle include economic growth and contraction. The business cycle is characterized by periods of economic growth, followed by periods of economic contraction. Changes in employment. During periods of expansion, employment levels tend to increase, while during periods of contraction, employment levels tend to decrease. Inflation. Inflation tends to increase during periods of expansion, as demand for goods and services outstrips supply, while it tends to decrease during periods of contraction, as demand falls. Changes in interest rates. Central banks may adjust interest rates to try to stabilize the economy during periods of contraction or to prevent overheating during periods of expansion. Consumer and business confidence. Consumer and business confidence tend to be high during periods of expansion, leading to increased spending and investment, while they tend to be low during periods of contraction, leading to reduced spending and investment. Inflation. Types, measurement, kinds of price indices. Inflation refers to a sustained increase in the general price level of goods and services in an economy over time. There are several types of inflation, including demand pull inflation. This type of inflation occurs when there is an increase in demand for goods and services, which outstrips supply, leading to an increase in prices. Cost push inflation. This type of inflation occurs when there is a decrease in the supply of goods and services, resulting in higher production costs, which are passed on to consumers in the form of higher prices. Built-in inflation. This type of inflation types, measurement, kinds of price indices. Inflation refers to a sustained increase in the general price level of goods and services in an economy over time. There are several types of inflation, including demand pull inflation. This type of inflation occurs when there is an increase in demand for goods and services, which outstrips supply, leading to an increase in prices. Cost push inflation. This type of inflation occurs when there is a decrease in the supply of goods and services, resulting in higher production costs, which are passed on to consumers in the form of higher prices. Built-in inflation. This type of inflation occurs when workers expect prices to rise, and therefore demand higher wages, which leads to higher production costs and higher prices. The measurement of inflation is typically done using various price indices, which are designed to track the prices of goods and services over time. Some of the commonly used price indices include Consumer Price Index, CPI. This index measures the changes in prices of a basket of goods and services consumed by households, such as food, housing, transportation, and medical care. Producer Price Index, PPI. This index measures the changes in prices of goods and services at the wholesale level, and is often used as an early indicator of inflation. Gross Domestic Product, GDP, deflator. This index measures the changes in prices of all goods and services produced in an economy, and is used to calculate real GDP, GDP adjusted for inflation. Personal Consumption Expenditures, PCE, price index. This index measures the changes in prices of all goods and services purchased by households, and is used by the Federal Reserve in setting monetary policy. In addition to these types of price indices, there are also other specialized price indices, such as the Cost of Living Index and the Inflation Expectation Index. Employment and unemployment rates, measurement. Measuring employment and unemployment rates is important for understanding the health of the labor market and making informed economic policy decisions. Here are the methods commonly used to measure employment and unemployment rates. Household surveys. Household surveys are the most common method used to measure employment and unemployment rates. These surveys ask individuals if they are currently employed, unemployed, or not in the labor force. Those who are unemployed and actively seeking work are considered to be part of the labor force, and their unemployment rate is calculated as a percentage of the labor force. The employment rate is calculated as a percentage of the working age population. Establishment surveys. Establishment surveys are another method used to measure employment and unemployment rates. These surveys gather information from businesses about the number of people they employ, as well as the number of people who have been laid off or are on temporary layoff. This method is useful for measuring changes in employment in specific industries or regions. Administrative data. Governments also use administrative data, such as unemployment insurance records, to track employment and unemployment rates. This method can provide a more accurate count of unemployment than household surveys, as it includes people who may not respond to surveys or who are not captured by household surveys. Census data. Census data can also be used to measure employment and unemployment rates. Census surveys ask people about their employment status, and those who are unemployed and actively seeking work are considered to be part of the labor force. National income measurement. National income is a measure of the total income generated by a country's economy during a specific period, usually 1 year. It includes all income earned by individuals, businesses, and the government within the borders of a country. National income is typically measured using two main methods, the output approach and the income approach. The output approach, also known as the gross domestic product, GDP, approach, measures national income by adding up the value of all final goods and services produced within a country's borders during a given period. This includes the value of goods and services produced by both domestic and foreign businesses operating within the country. The income approach, on the other hand, measures national income by adding up all of the income earned by individuals and businesses within a country's borders during a given period. This includes wages and salaries earned by workers, profits earned by businesses, and taxes paid to the government. Both of these methods have their strengths and weaknesses, and they can sometimes yield slightly different results. However, they are both widely used by economists and policymakers to track the performance of a country's economy over time and to make decisions about economic policy. Problems in measuring national income. While measuring national income is important for understanding a country's economic performance, there are several challenges and problems associated with this measurement. Some of these problems include informal economy. National income measures typically exclude income generated in the informal economy, which can be significant in developing countries. This includes income earned from activities such as street vending or informal labor that is not recorded in official statistics. Non-monetary transactions. National income measures focus on monetary transactions, which may not capture the value of non-monetary transactions such as volunteering or unpaid work done in the household. Double counting. The output approach to measuring national income may lead to double counting if intermediate goods and services used in production are included in the calculation. Inflation. Inflation can distort national income measures over time, as rising prices may inflate the nominal value of goods and services produced without a corresponding increase in real economic activity. Income distribution. National income measures do not provide information about how income is distributed within a country, which can be important for understanding issues such as poverty and inequality. Environmental degradation. National income measures do not take into account the negative impacts of economic activity on the environment, such as pollution or depletion of natural resources. MBEU 3. Industrial policies. Planning problems in industrial development during the plan period. During the planned period in various countries, industrial policies were implemented to promote industrial development. However, there were some problems encountered in the implementation of these policies. Some of the significant problems in industrial development during the plan period are: lack of infrastructure. One of the primary challenges faced by policymakers during the plan period was the lack of infrastructure such as transportation, communication, and power supply. The lack of infrastructure hampered the development of industries, making it difficult for them to operate efficiently. Inefficient allocation of resources. The allocation of resources was often inefficient due to bureaucratic red tape and corruption. This resulted in a shortage of essential inputs required for industrial production, leading to a decline in productivity and competitiveness. Limited access to finance. The development of industries requires significant capital investments, and many industries faced difficulties in obtaining financing from financial institutions. This was due to the lack of a developed financial system and inadequate financial policies during the plan period. Dependence on foreign technology. Many countries during the plan period were dependent on foreign technology for industrial development. This made it challenging to maintain technological innovation and competitiveness in the long term. Inadequate skilled labor. The lack of skilled labor was a significant challenge faced by industries during the plan period. Many industries struggled to find the necessary skilled workforce, leading to lower productivity and quality of products. Poor quality of products. Many industries during the plan period focused on quantity rather than quality, resulting in poor quality products. This led to a decline in consumer confidence and reduced competitiveness in the global market. Classification of industries based on ownership. Industries can be classified based on ownership into three categories. Private sector industries. Private sector industries are owned and managed by private individuals or companies. The primary objective of these industries is to generate profits and increase shareholder value. Private sector industries may be small, medium, or large scale, and they can operate in various sectors such as manufacturing, services, and agriculture. Public sector industries. Public sector industries are owned and managed by the government or state. The primary objective of these industries is to provide essential services to the public, promote economic development, and generate employment opportunities. Public sector industries may include industries such as utilities, transportation, and defense. Joint sector industries. Joint sector industries are owned and managed jointly by the government and private individuals or companies. The primary objective of these industries is to promote economic growth and development through the combined efforts of the government and private sector. Joint sector industries may include industries such as power generation, steel production, and mining. It is worth noting that some industries may have mixed ownership, where the ownership is shared between public and private sectors, or between domestic and foreign investors. The classification of industries based on ownership provides a useful framework for analyzing the structure and performance of industries in different sectors and regions. New Industrial Policy 1991. The New Industrial Policy of 1991 was a set of economic reforms that aimed to liberalize and modernize India's industrial sector. The policy was introduced by the Government of India in response to the economic crisis of 1991 and aimed to promote economic growth, increase competitiveness, and attract foreign investment. Some of the key features of the New Industrial Policy of 1991 include: liberalization of industrial licensing. The policy abolished the requirement for industrial licensing for most industries, except for a few industries that are considered essential for national security and public interest. Promotion of foreign investment. The policy encouraged foreign investment by allowing up to 51% foreign ownership in most industries, and 100% foreign ownership in select industries. This policy aimed to attract foreign capital, technology, and management skills to India. Dereservation of industries. The policy abolished the reservation of certain industries for the public sector and allowed private sector participation in these industries. Encouragement of competition. The policy aimed to promote competition by encouraging the entry of new players into the market, promoting efficiency, and reducing the dominance of monopolies. Modernization of industrial infrastructure. The policy aimed to modernize the country's industrial infrastructure by promoting the development of technology parks, industrial estates, and special economic zones. Strengthening of intellectual property rights. The policy aimed to strengthen intellectual property rights to encourage innovation, creativity, and the protection of intellectual property. COVID-19 impact on different sectors. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant impact on various sectors of the economy, with some sectors being hit harder than others. Here are some of the sectors that have been impacted by the pandemic. Tourism and hospitality. The pandemic has had a severe impact on the tourism and hospitality sector, as travel restrictions, lockdowns, and social distancing measures have led to a significant decline in travel and tourism. Many hotels, restaurants, and other businesses in this sector have been forced to close down or reduce their operations, leading to job losses and economic hardship. Aviation. The aviation sector has also been severely impacted by the pandemic, as travel restrictions and reduced demand for air travel have led to a significant decline in revenue. Many airlines have had to cancel flights, ground aircraft, and reduce their workforce to cut costs and survive the crisis. Retail and consumer goods. The pandemic has had a mixed impact on the retail and consumer goods sector, with some businesses experiencing a surge in demand for essential goods and services, while others have seen a decline in sales due to reduced consumer spending and restrictions on physical retail operations. Manufacturing. The pandemic has disrupted global supply chains and reduced demand for many manufactured goods, leading to a decline in production and job losses in the manufacturing sector. Many factories have had to shut down temporarily or reduce their operations due to supply chain disruptions and reduced demand. Healthcare. The pandemic has put a significant strain on the healthcare sector, with hospitals and healthcare workers facing a surge in demand for medical services, equipment, and supplies. The pandemic has also led to an increase in healthcare costs and a shortage of healthcare workers in some regions. Education. The pandemic has disrupted the education sector, with many schools, colleges, and universities forced to shut down or switch to online learning. This has led to significant challenges for students, teachers, and educational institutions, as they try to adapt to new modes of learning and teaching. Structure of Indian industry. Public and private sector enterprises. The structure of the Indian industry can be broadly classified into two sectors: public sector enterprises and private sector enterprises. Public sector enterprises, PSEs. These are businesses that are owned and operated by the Government of India. PSEs are created to achieve certain strategic objectives, such as promoting economic growth, providing essential services to the public, and maintaining national security. PSEs can be further classified into three categories. Departmental undertakings. These are government departments that engage in commercial activities, such as printing presses, railways, and postal services. Statutory corporations. These are autonomous bodies that are created by an act of parliament or state legislature, such as the Airports Authority of India, National Highways Authority of India, and Indian Oil Corporation. Government companies. These are companies that are owned and operated by the government, such as Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited, BHEL, National Thermal Power Corporation, NTPC, and Oil and Natural Gas Corporation, ONGC. Private sector enterprises. These are businesses that are owned and operated by private individuals or companies. Private sector enterprises are driven by profit motives and are created to generate wealth and create employment opportunities. Private sector enterprises can be further classified into three categories. Small and medium enterprises. These are businesses that have a turnover of less than 250 rupees crore and employ less than 500 people. SMEs are an essential part of the Indian economy and play a vital role in providing employment and contributing to economic growth. Large-scale enterprises. These are businesses that have a turnover of more than 250 rupees crore and employ more than 500 people. Large-scale enterprises are dominant players in the Indian economy and operate in various sectors such as manufacturing, services, and agriculture. Multinational corporations. These are companies that have their headquarters in foreign countries and operate in India. MNCs play an important role in the Indian economy by bringing in foreign investment, technology, and management skills. Objectives of PSUs. Public sector undertakings, PSUs, in India are set up with the following objectives: to promote rapid economic growth and development, PSUs are set up to promote rapid economic growth and development by investing in key sectors of the economy such as infrastructure, power, steel, and oil and gas. They are expected to generate employment opportunities, enhance industrial production, and contribute to the overall economic development of the country. To provide essential goods and services, PSUs are set up to provide essential goods and services such as electricity, transportation, and healthcare to the public. They are expected to operate at affordable prices and provide quality services to the people. To achieve self-reliance, PSUs are set up to achieve self-reliance in strategic sectors of the economy such as defense, atomic energy, and space. They are expected to reduce the dependence on foreign countries for critical technology, equipment, and raw materials. To promote regional development, PSUs are set up to promote regional development by investing in backward areas and providing employment opportunities to people in these areas. To protect national interests, PSUs are set up to protect national interests by participating in strategic sectors of the economy and maintaining the security of the nation. They are expected to work closely with the government to implement policies that promote national security and defense. Public sector performance and shortcomings. The public sector refers to organizations that are owned and operated by the government. These organizations are typically responsible for providing essential services to the public, such as healthcare, education, and transportation. Here are some of the key aspects of public sector performance and shortcomings. Performance. Provision of essential services. The public sector plays a critical role in providing essential services to the public, such as healthcare, education, and transportation. These services are typically provided at a lower cost than what private sector providers charge. Employment generation. Public sector organizations are often major employers, providing jobs to a significant portion of the population. This can help to reduce unemployment rates and promote economic growth. Social welfare. Public sector organizations are often involved in programs and initiatives that promote social welfare, such as poverty alleviation and healthcare programs for low-income families. Shortcomings. Bureaucratic culture. Public sector organizations are often criticized for their bureaucratic culture, which can slow down decision-making and result in inefficiencies. Lack of accountability. Public sector organizations are sometimes criticized for their lack of accountability. This can result in inefficiencies and corruption, which can be detrimental to the organization and the public it serves. Political interference. Public sector organizations are sometimes subject to political interference, which can hinder their ability to operate effectively. Lack of innovation. Public sector organizations are sometimes criticized for their lack of innovation, which can make it difficult for them to adapt to changing circumstances. Budget constraints. Public sector organizations often operate with limited budgets, which can make it difficult for them to provide high-quality services or invest in new initiatives. Private sector growth, problems and prospects. The private sector has been a major driver of economic growth in India over the past few decades. The private sector includes small, medium and large enterprises that operate in various sectors such as manufacturing, services, and agriculture. Let's take a look at the growth, problems, and prospects of the private sector in India. Growth. Contribution to GDP. The private sector contributes significantly to the GDP of India, accounting for around 70% of the country's GDP. Employment generation. The private sector is a significant contributor to employment generation in India. It provides employment opportunities to millions of people across various sectors. Entrepreneurship. The private sector has been a breeding ground for entrepreneurship in India. Many successful entrepreneurs have started their businesses in the private sector, contributing to the growth of the economy. Investment. The private sector has been the primary source of investment in the Indian economy, with many large companies investing heavily in various sectors. Problems. Red tape and bureaucratic hurdles. The private sector in India faces significant bureaucratic hurdles and red tape that makes it difficult to start and operate businesses. Lack of access to credit. Many small and medium-sized enterprises in the private sector face difficulty in accessing credit, which hampers their growth and expansion. Infrastructure. The private sector faces significant infrastructure-related challenges, such as inadequate power supply, poor transportation facilities, and inadequate communication networks. Labor productivity. The labor productivity in the private sector is relatively low compared to other countries. This is mainly due to the lack of skill development and training programs. Prospects. Growth potential. The private sector in India has significant growth potential, with the government providing various incentives and policies to promote the growth of the sector. Technology adoption. The private sector in India is adopting new technologies and innovations, which can enhance productivity and competitiveness. Global competitiveness. The private sector in India is becoming more globally competitive, with many companies expanding their operations overseas. E-commerce and digitalization. The growth of e-commerce and digitalization in India is providing new opportunities for the private sector, especially small and medium-sized enterprises. MSME role in Indian economy. Micro, small, and medium enterprises, MSMEs, play a crucial role in the Indian economy. They are the backbone of the Indian economy, and their contribution to the economy is significant in terms of employment, exports, and manufacturing. Let's take a closer look at the role of MSMEs in the Indian economy. Employment generation. MSMEs are a significant source of employment in India, contributing to more than 110 million jobs. They are the largest employer after agriculture and employ approximately 40% of the country's workforce. Export promotion. MSMEs contribute significantly to the country's exports, accounting for around 45% of the total exports. They play a vital role in promoting exports, particularly in the manufacturing and services sectors. Promoting entrepreneurship. MSMEs are a breeding ground for entrepreneurship in India. They provide opportunities for aspiring entrepreneurs to start their businesses, contributing to the growth of the economy. Promoting balanced regional development. MSMEs are widely distributed across the country, and they play a significant role in promoting balanced regional development. They are particularly vital in rural areas, providing employment opportunities and promoting economic growth. Contribution to GDP. MSMEs contribute significantly to the GDP of India, accounting for around 30% of the country's GDP. Manufacturing. MSMEs are a vital part of the manufacturing sector in India. They contribute to around 45% of the manufacturing output in the country. Innovation. MSMEs are hubs of innovation, with many companies focusing on research and development to enhance their competitiveness in the global market. Privatization, problems and prospects. Privatization refers to the process of transferring ownership or control of public sector enterprises to the private sector. While privatization can offer several benefits such as increased efficiency, improved quality of services, and increased competition, there are also some problems associated with privatization. Let's take a closer look at the problems and prospects of privatization. Problems. Loss of government revenue. One of the most significant problems with privatization is the loss of government revenue. Public sector enterprises often generate significant revenue for the government, and privatization can result in a loss of this revenue. Unemployment. Privatization can also result in job losses, particularly for employees of the public sector enterprises that are being privatized. This can have a significant impact on the workforce and the broader economy. Inequity. Privatization can lead to inequity in the distribution of wealth and resources. Private companies may prioritize profit over social welfare, which can lead to unequal access to goods and services. Monopoly. Privatization can result in the creation of monopolies, which can be harmful to competition and consumers. Prospects. Improved efficiency. Privatization can lead to improved efficiency in the delivery of goods and services, as private companies are often more focused on profit and customer satisfaction. Increased competition. Privatization can increase competition in markets, which can lead to lower prices and better quality goods and services for consumers. Technological innovation. Privatization can lead to increased investment in research and development, which can lead to technological innovation and improvements in goods and services. More flexible management. Private companies are often more flexible in their management style and can make decisions more quickly than public sector enterprises. Disinvestments in Indian public sector units since 1991. Disinvestment refers to the process of selling a part of the government's shareholding in public sector enterprises. The policy of disinvestment was introduced in India in 1991 as a part of the economic liberalization process. Since then, several disinvestments have taken place in Indian public sector units. Let's cover all aspects of disinvestments in Indian public sector units since 1991. Objectives of disinvestment. The primary objectives of disinvestment are to raise funds for the government, to reduce the fiscal deficit, to promote economic growth by increasing the efficiency of public sector enterprises, to encourage private sector participation and competition. Disinvestments in Indian public sector units since 1991. First wave of disinvestment, 1991 to 2004. The first wave of disinvestment started in 1991 and continued until 2004. During this period, the government sold off its shares in several public sector enterprises, including Maruti Suzuki, VSNL, Hindustan Zinc, and Balco. Second wave of disinvestment, 2014 to 2019. The second wave of disinvestment started in 2014 and continued until 2019. During this period, the government sold off its shares in several public sector enterprises, including Coal India, Indian Oil Corporation, and NHPC. Third wave of disinvestment, 2019 onwards. The third wave of disinvestment started in 2019 and is ongoing. The government has announced its plans to sell its stake in several public sector enterprises, including Air India, Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited, and Shipping Corporation of India. Impact of disinvestment. Increased efficiency. Disinvestment has led to an increase in the efficiency of public sector enterprises as they have been forced to compete with private sector companies. Increased competition. Disinvestment has also led to increased competition in markets, which has resulted in lower prices and better quality goods and services for consumers. Reduced fiscal deficit. Disinvestment has helped the government reduce its fiscal deficit by raising funds through the sale of shares. Job losses. Disinvestment has also resulted in job losses, particularly for employees of the public sector enterprises that are being privatized. Criticism. Disinvestment has been criticized for its impact on the strategic sectors, loss of government control, and the adverse effects on workers. Conclusion. Disinvestment has been an important policy tool in India since 1991, and the government has used it to sell its stake in several public sector enterprises. While disinvestment has led to increased efficiency and competition, it has also resulted in job losses and has been criticized for its impact on strategic sectors. It is important to ensure that the process is transparent and fair to all stakeholders, including employees and consumers. MBEU 4. Fiscal policy, objectives, instruments, union budget, taxes. Fiscal policy is the use of government spending and taxation to influence the economy. The primary objective of fiscal policy is to stabilize the economy by promoting economic growth, controlling inflation, and reducing unemployment. Here are some of the key aspects of fiscal policy. Objectives. Promote economic growth. Fiscal policy aims to stimulate economic growth by increasing government spending and cutting taxes to increase demand for goods and services. Control inflation. Fiscal policy also aims to control inflation by reducing government spending and increasing taxes to reduce demand for goods and services. Reduce unemployment. Fiscal policy can be used to reduce unemployment by increasing government spending on infrastructure projects and social welfare programs, which can create jobs and stimulate demand for goods and services. Instruments. Government spending. One of the key instruments of fiscal policy is government spending. The government can increase spending on infrastructure, education, healthcare, and social welfare programs to stimulate demand and promote economic growth. Taxes. Fiscal policy can also be implemented through changes in taxes. The government can cut taxes to stimulate demand and promote economic growth, or increase taxes to reduce demand and control inflation. Public borrowing. Another instrument of fiscal policy is public borrowing. The government can borrow money by issuing bonds and using the funds to finance infrastructure projects or other initiatives. Union Budget. The budget goals for FY 2022-23 aim to further India's aspirations in Amrit Kal, as it moves towards its 100th year post-independence. Focus on growth and all-inclusive welfare. Promoting technology-enabled development, energy transition and climate action. Virtuous cycle starting from private investment, crowded in by public capital investment. The Union Budget for FY 2022-23 this year aims to strengthen the infrastructure with its focus on 4 priorities of PM Gati Shakti. Inclusive development. Productivity enhancement and investment, Sunri Se opportunities, energy transition, and climate action times financing of investments. Key features. India's GDP has witnessed robust recovery twice with the past 2 waves of the pandemic, a testimony to the nation's economic resilience. Providing greater fiscal space to states. Enhanced outlay for Scheme for Financial Assistance to States for Capital Investment, from 10,000 rupees crore in budget estimates to 15,000 rupees crore in revised estimates for current year. Allocation of fiscal policy. Taxes in India. In India, taxes play a significant role in generating revenue for the government and achieving the objectives of fiscal policy. The country's tax system can be broadly categorized into 2 main types of taxes: direct taxes and indirect taxes. Direct taxes. Direct taxes are levied on an individual's income or profits earned by businesses. Some examples of direct taxes in India include personal income tax, corporate tax, and capital gains tax. The government collects these taxes directly from the individuals or companies that owe them. Direct taxes are considered to be progressive because they are based on the taxpayer's ability to pay. As a result, individuals with higher incomes or profits typically pay a higher percentage of their income in taxes than those with lower incomes or profits. Indirect taxes. Indirect taxes are levied on goods and services and are collected by the government from producers or sellers of goods and services. Indirect taxes are typically passed on to consumers in the form of higher prices. Examples of indirect taxes in India include the Goods and Services Tax, GST, Excise Duty, Customs Duty, and Service Tax. Goods and Services Tax, GST is a comprehensive indirect tax that was implemented in India in 2017. It replaced a range of indirect taxes that were previously levied by the central and state governments. GST is a consumption tax that is levied on the value added at each stage of the supply chain, from the manufacturer to the consumer. GST has helped to simplify the tax system in India and has reduced the compliance burden on businesses. The role of the government in fiscal policy. The government plays a critical role in fiscal policy. Fiscal policy involves the government's use of taxation, public spending, and borrowing to influence the level of economic activity in the country. The government uses fiscal policy to achieve various economic objectives, such as promoting economic growth, controlling inflation. Goods and Services Tax, GST is a comprehensive indirect tax that was implemented in India in 2017. It replaced a range of indirect taxes that were previously levied by the central and state governments. GST is a consumption tax that is levied on the value added at each stage of the supply chain, from the manufacturer to the consumer. GST has helped to simplify the tax system in India and has reduced the compliance burden on businesses. The role of the government in fiscal policy. The government plays a critical role in fiscal policy. Fiscal policy involves the government's use of taxation, public spending, and borrowing to influence the level of economic activity in the country. The government uses fiscal policy to achieve various economic objectives, such as promoting economic growth, controlling inflation, and reducing income inequality. The government's role in fiscal policy includes the following. Setting fiscal targets. the government sets fiscal targets to achieve various economic objectives. For example, the government may set targets for the budget deficit or the debt to GDP ratio to ensure fiscal stability. Taxation: the government collects taxes from individuals and businesses to generate revenue for public spending. The government can use taxation to achieve various economic objectives, such as reducing income inequality and controlling inflation. Public spending: the government spends money on various programs and services to promote economic growth, social welfare, and infrastructure development. The government can use public spending to stimulate economic activity and create jobs. Borrowing: the government can borrow money to finance public spending or to refinance existing debt. The government can use borrowing to finance public investments, such as infrastructure development. Managing public debt: the government is responsible for managing public debt, which includes monitoring and controlling the amount of debt and the interest rates paid on the debt. Monetary policy: money, measures of money supply. Monetary policy is the process by which a central bank, in India's case, the Reserve Bank of India, manages the supply and demand for money in the economy. Money is a medium of exchange used to facilitate transactions in an economy. The central bank's primary objective is to maintain price stability and promote economic growth by managing the money supply. Measures of money supply refer to the different ways of measuring the total amount of money in circulation in an economy. In India, the Reserve Bank of India uses 4 measures of money supply. M1 M1 refers to the narrowest measure of money supply and includes all physical currency in circulation, demand deposits with commercial banks, and other deposits that are immediately withdrawable by customers. M2 includes M1 and adds savings deposits, time deposits with maturities of up to 1 year, and post office savings deposits. M3 includes M2 and adds all time deposits with maturities of over 1 year, certificates of deposit issued by banks, and commercial paper. M4 is the broadest measure of money supply and includes M3 plus all deposits with non-banking financial institutions, such as mutual funds and insurance companies. Monetary policy: monetary system in India. The monetary system in India is managed by the Reserve Bank of India, RBI, which is the central bank of the country. The RBI is responsible for formulating and implementing monetary policy, regulating the banking system, and managing the country's foreign exchange reserves. The monetary policy in India is aimed at maintaining price stability and promoting economic growth. The RBI uses various monetary policy tools to regulate the money supply in the economy, such as changing the repo rate, reverse repo rate, and cash reserve ratio. The RBI also manages the exchange rate of the Indian rupee against other currencies by buying and selling foreign currency in the foreign exchange market. The monetary system in India has evolved over the years to become more sophisticated and modern. The RBI has introduced several reforms in recent years to strengthen the banking system, promote financial inclusion, and improve the efficiency of the monetary policy transmission mechanism. Monetary policy: tools for credit control. The Reserve Bank of India, RBI, uses a variety of tools to regulate the money supply and credit availability in the economy. The main tools for credit control are: repo rate. The repo rate is the interest rate at which the RBI lends money to commercial banks. An increase in the repo rate makes it more expensive for banks to borrow money from the RBI, which reduces the availability of credit and restricts the money supply. Reverse repo rate. The reverse repo rate is the interest rate at which the RBI borrows money from banks. An increase in the reverse repo rate makes it more attractive for banks to deposit their excess funds with the RBI, which reduces the availability of credit and restricts the money supply. Cash reserve ratio, CRR. The CRR is the percentage of deposits that banks must keep in reserve with the RBI. An increase in the CRR reduces the amount of funds available for lending by banks, which restricts the money supply and reduces credit availability. Statutory liquidity ratio, SLR. The SLR is the percentage of deposits that banks must hold in the form of liquid assets, such as government securities. An increase in the SLR reduces the amount of funds available for lending by banks, which restricts the money supply and reduces credit availability. Open market operations, OMOs. OMOs involve the buying and selling of government securities by the RBI in the open market. When the RBI buys government securities, it injects funds into the banking system, increasing the money supply and credit availability. When the RBI sells government securities, it reduces the money supply and credit availability. Credit rationing. In extreme situations, the RBI may directly restrict the availability of credit to certain sectors or industries in order to control inflation and manage the money supply. Structure of the banking system. The banking system in India is divided into two main categories. 1. Scheduled banks. These are banks that are included in the second schedule of the Reserve Bank of India, RBI, Act, 1934. RBI and its functions. The Reserve Bank of India, RBI, is the central bank of India and performs a wide range of functions to ensure the smooth functioning of the Indian economy. Some of its key functions are: formulating monetary policy. The RBI is responsible for formulating and implementing monetary policy in India. This includes setting the benchmark interest rates and regulating the money supply in the economy through various measures like open market operations, reserve requirements, and lending rates to banks. Regulating banks and financial institutions. The RBI is responsible for regulating and supervising banks and financial institutions in India. This includes issuing licenses to banks, regulating their operations, and conducting periodic inspections to ensure compliance with regulations. Issuing currency. The RBI is the sole issuer of currency in India and is responsible for managing the supply and distribution of currency notes and coins. Managing foreign exchange reserves. The RBI manages India's foreign exchange reserves and is responsible for maintaining the stability of the rupee exchange rate. Conducting developmental functions. The RBI also conducts a range of developmental functions, including promoting financial inclusion, developing the banking infrastructure, and supporting the growth of the financial system. Banking structure reforms. Narsingham Committee recommendations. The first in 1991. The Narsingham Committee on Banking Sector Reforms was appointed by the Government of India in 1991, with the objective of reviewing and recommending measures to strengthen the banking system in India. Banking structure reforms. Narsingham Committee recommendations. The first in 1991. The Narsingham Committee on Banking Sector Reforms was appointed by the Government of India in 1991, with the objective of reviewing and recommending measures to strengthen the banking system in India. The committee submitted two reports, the first in 1991 and the second in 1998. The major recommendations of the first report are as follows. Reduction of statutory liquidity ratio, SLR. The committee recommended reducing the SLR, which is the portion of deposits that banks are required to keep with the RBI in the form of liquid assets. The SLR was reduced from 38.5% to 25%. Reduction of cash reserve ratio, CRR. The committee recommended reducing the CRR, which is the portion of deposits that banks are required to keep with the RBI in the form of cash. The CRR was reduced from 15% to 3%. Liberalization of branch licensing policy. The committee recommended a liberalized branch licensing policy, which allowed banks to open branches freely, subject to certain conditions. Introduction of new types of banks. The committee recommended the introduction of new types of banks, such as private sector banks, foreign banks, and local area banks, to increase competition and improve the efficiency of the banking system. Strengthening of banking supervision. The committee recommended strengthening the supervisory role of the RBI to ensure the safety and soundness of the banking system. Introduction of capital adequacy norms. The committee recommended the introduction of capital adequacy norms, which require banks to maintain a minimum level of capital to support their risk-weighted assets. Overall, the Narsingham Committee's recommendations were aimed at increasing the efficiency, competition, and stability of the banking system in India, and many of these recommendations were implemented by the government in subsequent years. Narsingham Committee recommendations. The second in 1998. The Narsingham Committee on Banking Sector Reforms submitted its second report in 1998, which focused on the developments in the banking sector since the first report was submitted in 1991. The major recommendations of the second report are as follows. Recapitalization of banks. The committee recommended recapitalization of public sector banks to enhance their capital adequacy and to enable them to meet the Basel II norms. Merger of strong banks. The committee recommended the merger of strong banks to create larger, stronger banks that can compete with international banks. Establishment of asset reconstruction companies. ARCs. The committee recommended the establishment of ARCs to deal with the problem of non-performing assets, NPAs, in the banking system. Strengthening of banking supervision. The committee recommended further strengthening of banking supervision, including the introduction of risk-based supervision, the establishment of a separate supervisory department within the RBI, and the formation of a banking ombudsman scheme. Improvement of payment and settlement systems. The committee recommended the improvement of payment and settlement systems in the banking system to reduce settlement risks and improve efficiency. Introduction of Internet banking. The committee recommended the introduction of Internet banking to increase the reach of banking services and to improve efficiency. Overall, the Narsingham Committee's recommendations in its second report were aimed at further strengthening the banking system in India and enhancing its competitiveness in the global market. Many of these recommendations were implemented by the government and the RBI in the following years. Exim Policy 2015-20. The Exim Policy 2015-20, also known as the Foreign Trade Policy 2015-20, is a policy document issued by the Government of India that lays down guidelines for exports and imports of goods and services. The policy aims to promote exports, generate employment, and boost economic growth. Here are some of the key features of the Exim Policy 2015-20. Merchandise Exports from India Scheme. MAIS. The MAIS scheme provides incentives to exporters in the form of duty credit scrips, which can be used to pay for customs duties on imported goods. The scheme covers a wide range of goods and services, including agricultural products, handicrafts, textiles, and engineering goods. Service Exports from India Scheme. SICE. The SICE scheme provides incentives to service providers who are exporting services from India. The incentives are in the form of duty credit scrips, which can be used to pay for customs duties on imported goods. The scheme covers a wide range of services, including professional, technical, and business services. Focus Product Scheme, FPS. The FPS scheme provides incentives to exporters of certain products that are identified as having high export potential. The incentives are in the form of duty credit scrips, which can be used to pay for customs duties on imported goods. Market Access Initiative. The MES scheme provides financial assistance to exporters to help them enter new markets and increase exports to existing markets. The assistance can be used for activities such as market research, participation in trade fairs, and advertising and publicity. Export Promotion Capital Goods (EPCG) scheme. The EPCG scheme allows exporters to import capital goods at a concessional customs duty rate, provided that the goods are used for export production. The duty can be deferred and paid in installments over a period of time. Advance Authorization Scheme (AAS). The AAS allows exporters to import raw materials and inputs at zero customs duty, subject to an export obligation. The obligation requires the exporter to export a certain quantity of goods within a specified time period. Duty-Free Import Authorization (DFIA) scheme. The DFIA scheme allows exporters to import inputs and goods at zero customs duty, subject to an export obligation. The obligation requires the exporter to export a certain quantity of goods within a specified time period. Special Economic Zones (SEZ). The Exim Policy 2015-20 provides incentives for companies to set up units in SEZs, including exemption from customs and excise duties, income tax exemptions, and simplified procedures for import and export of goods. MBEU 5. Infrastructure in the Indian economy. Infrastructure in the Indian economy refers to the physical and organizational structures that support economic activities and enable the efficient flow of goods, services, and people. Here are the key aspects of infrastructure in the Indian economy. Transportation infrastructure. This includes roads, railways, airports, seaports, and inland waterways. India has made significant progress in improving its transportation infrastructure in recent years, but there is still a need for further investment and modernization. Energy infrastructure. This includes power generation, transmission, and distribution systems, as well as oil and gas pipelines. India is one of the largest consumers of energy in the world, and there is a need for significant investment in renewable energy and energy efficiency to meet growing demand. Communication infrastructure. This includes telecommunications networks, broadband internet, and postal services. India has made significant progress in expanding its communication infrastructure in recent years, but there is still a need for further investment to improve access and quality. Water infrastructure. This includes irrigation systems, water supply and sanitation systems, and flood control systems. India faces significant challenges in managing its water resources, and there is a need for further investment in water infrastructure to support agricultural productivity and improve public health. Social infrastructure. This includes schools, hospitals, and other social services that support human development and well-being. India has made significant progress in expanding access to social infrastructure in recent years, but there is still a need for further investment to improve quality and coverage. Financial infrastructure. This includes banking and financial services, as well as capital markets and insurance. India has made significant progress in expanding access to financial services in recent years, but there is still a need for further investment to promote financial inclusion and support economic growth. Economic development. Economic development is a broad term that refers to the process by which a country improves its economic performance and well-being over time. Here are the key aspects of economic development. Economic growth. This refers to the increase in a country's gross domestic product, GDP, over time. Economic growth is typically measured in terms of real GDP, which adjusts for inflation. Productivity. This refers to the efficiency with which a country uses its resources to produce goods and services. Higher productivity can lead to higher economic growth and higher living standards for citizens. Employment. This refers to the availability and quality of jobs in a country. Employment is a key driver of economic growth and is critical for ensuring that citizens can earn a living and support themselves and their families. Income distribution. This refers to the distribution of income across different segments of the population. A more equal income distribution can promote social stability and reduce poverty and inequality. Trade. This refers to the exchange of goods and services between countries. Trade is a key driver of economic growth and can help countries specialize in the production of goods and services in which they have a comparative advantage. Innovation and technology. This refers to the development and adoption of new technologies and innovations that can improve productivity and efficiency in the economy. Infrastructure. This refers to the physical and organizational structures that support economic activities and enable the efficient flow of goods, services, and people. Human capital. This refers to the knowledge, skills, and abilities of the workforce. Human capital is critical for driving productivity and innovation in the economy. Environmental sustainability. This refers to the ability of the economy to grow and develop in a way that is environmentally sustainable and does not degrade natural resources. Indian economy, energy, power. Energy and power are critical components of India's economy and play a crucial role in supporting economic growth and development. Here is a comprehensive overview of the different aspects of energy and power in the Indian economy. Sources of energy. India has a diverse mix of energy sources, including fossil fuels, nuclear power, and renewable energy. Fossil fuels, including coal, oil, and natural gas, are the primary sources of energy in India, accounting for more than 80% of the country's energy mix. India is also investing heavily in renewable energy sources such as solar, wind, and hydropower. Power generation. India's power generation sector is dominated by thermal power plants, which use fossil fuels to generate electricity. India has also invested in nuclear power generation and is planning to increase its nuclear capacity in the coming years. In addition, India is rapidly increasing its renewable energy capacity, with a target of achieving 175 GW of renewable energy by 2022. Transmission and distribution. India has a vast network of transmission and distribution infrastructure that is responsible for delivering electricity from power plants to end users. The transmission and distribution infrastructure in India is owned and operated by state-owned companies such as Power Grid Corporation of India Limited, GSIL, and state electricity boards. Energy policies and initiatives. The Ministry of Power and the Ministry of New and Renewable Energy are responsible for the development and regulation of the energy and power sector in India. The government has implemented several policies and initiatives to promote the growth of the sector, including the National Solar Mission, the National Wind Energy Mission, and the Ujjwal Discom Assurance Yojana, UDAR, scheme. Energy efficiency. Improving energy efficiency is a critical priority for India, given the country's growing energy needs and the need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The government has launched several initiatives to promote energy efficiency, including the Perform, Achieve and Trade (PAT) scheme, which aims to improve energy efficiency in energy-intensive industries. Challenges. The energy and power sector in India faces several challenges, including inadequate infrastructure, high transmission and distribution losses, insufficient financing, and the need to balance economic growth with environmental concerns. These challenges need to be addressed to ensure that the energy and power sector can support sustainable economic growth and development in India. Transport system. Railways. The railway network is one of the most important components of the transport system in India, and Indian Railways is the country's national railway system. The railway network in India is one of the largest in the world and plays a significant role in the country's economic growth. The Indian Railways is divided into zones, and there are 18 zones covering the entire country. The railway system comprises both passenger and freight transportation, and it is an affordable mode of transport for millions of people in the country. The railways carry around 23 million passengers and 3 million tons of freight every day, connecting far-flung areas of the country to the rest of the country. The Indian government has been investing in the modernization and expansion of the railway network to improve the efficiency and safety of the system. Some of the key initiatives undertaken by the government include high-speed trains. The Indian government has introduced high-speed trains like the Vande Bharat Express, which is a semi-high-speed train, connecting major cities in the country. Dedicated freight corridors. The government has been working on the development of dedicated freight corridors to improve the efficiency of freight transportation. The Eastern Dedicated Freight Corridor and the Western Dedicated Freight Corridor are the two major projects undertaken by the government. Modernization of stations. The government has undertaken a massive modernization drive for railway stations across the country, improving passenger amenities, and introducing modern facilities like escalators, lifts, and digital displays. Electrification of railway network. The government has been working on the electrification of the railway network to reduce carbon emissions and improve energy efficiency. The target is to electrify the entire railway network by 2023. Digital initiatives. The Indian Railways has introduced several digital initiatives like online ticket booking, e-catering, and digital payment options, making it convenient for passengers to book tickets and access services. Transport system. Road transport. Road transport is an essential component of India's transport system, as it serves as the primary mode of transportation for people and goods across the country. India has a vast road network, including national highways, state highways, and rural roads, covering a total length of more than 5.5 million kilometers. National highways are the backbone of India's road transport system and account for around 2% of the total road network but carry around 40% of the total road traffic. The government has been investing in the development of national highways, with the objective of improving connectivity between major cities and ports. The Indian government has initiated several measures to modernize and expand the road transport system in the country, including the following. Bharatmala Pariyojana. Bharatmala is an ambitious project launched by the government to develop a network of economic corridors and intercorridors across the country. The project aims to improve connectivity and reduce travel time, which will boost economic growth. Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. The Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana is a rural road development program launched by the government to connect unconnected habitations in rural areas. The objective is to improve rural connectivity, which will boost rural development. Electronic toll collection. The government has introduced electronic toll collection on national highways to reduce congestion and travel time, making it convenient for people to travel. Expressways. The government has also been developing expressways, which are high-speed roads that can reduce travel time between cities. Some of the prominent expressways developed by the government include the Mumbai-Pune Expressway and the Yamuna Expressway. Road safety. The government has introduced several measures to improve road safety, including the implementation of strict traffic rules, the transport system. Water transport. India has a vast network of waterways. In India, the National Waterway Act was passed in 1986, which designated 5 national waterways for the development and regulation of inland water transport. These include National Waterway 1, NW1, the Ganga Bhagirathi Hooghly River System, which extends from Haldia, West Bengal, to Allahabad, Uttar Pradesh. National Waterway 2, NW2, the Brahmaputra River System, which extends from Dhubri, Assam, to Sadia, Assam. National Waterway 3, NW3, the West Coast Canal in Kerala. National Waterway 4, NW4, the Kakinada Puducherry canals along the east coast. National Waterway 5, NW5, the Brahmani River System. Transport system. Air transport. Air transport is an important component of India's transportation system and plays a critical role in connecting people, goods, and businesses across the country and the world. Here is a comprehensive overview of the different aspects of the air transport system in India. Airports. India has over 100 operational airports, including international, domestic, and regional airports. The major airports in India include Indira Gandhi International Airport in Delhi, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj International Airport in Mumbai, and Kempegowda International Airport in Bangalore. Airlines. India has a vibrant aviation industry, with several domestic and international airlines operating in the country. The major airlines in India include Indigo, Air India, SpiceJet, and Vistara. Air traffic control. Communication system in India covering all the aspects. India's communication system is a diverse and complex network of various technologies and services that connect people and businesses across the country. Here is a comprehensive overview of the different aspects of the communication system in India. Landline phones. Landline phones were the primary mode of communication in India before the advent of mobile phones. The state-owned Bharat Sanchar Nigam Limited, BSNL, and Mahanagar Telephone Nigam Limited, MTNL, are the major providers of landline phone services in India. Mobile phones. With the growth of the telecom sector in India, mobile phones have become the primary mode of communication for most people. India has the second largest telecom market in the world, with over 1.2 billion mobile phone subscribers. Major mobile operators in India include Reliance Jio, Airtel, Vodafone Idea, and BSNL. Internet. The Internet has revolutionized communication in India and has transformed various aspects of Indian society, including education, healthcare, and commerce. India has seen significant growth in Internet penetration in recent years, with more than 700 million Internet users as of 2021. Major Internet service providers in India include Airtel, Jio, and Vodafone Idea. Satellite-based communication systems. The Indian government has launched several satellite-based communication systems such as INSAT and GS8, which provide various services such as telecommunications, broadcasting, meteorology, and disaster management. Fiber optic cables and microwave links. India has a vast network of fiber optic cables and microwave links that form the backbone of the country's communication system. Major players in this space include BharatNet, which aims to provide high-speed internet connectivity to rural areas, and Reliance Jio, which has invested heavily in fiber optic infrastructure. Telecommunication policies and initiatives. The Department of Telecommunications, DOT, is responsible for the development and regulation of the telecom sector in India. The DOT has implemented several policies and initiatives to promote the growth of the sector, including the National Telecom Policy, NTP, and the Digital India program. Challenges. Despite significant progress, there are still challenges that need to be addressed to improve communication infrastructure in India. These challenges include the need to expand high-speed internet connectivity to rural areas, address issues related to data privacy and security, and improve the quality of service provided by telecom operators. Development of IT sector in India. The development of the IT sector in India is a fascinating story of how India emerged as a global hub for technology services and software development. Here is a comprehensive overview of the development of the IT sector in India. Early years. In the 1970s, India launched the Computer Policy, which aimed to promote the development of computer technology in the country. This policy led to the liberalization. In the early 1990s, India embarked on a path of economic liberalization, which led to the opening up of the Indian economy and allowed foreign companies to set up operations in the country. This move paved the way for the IT sector's development as many multinational companies set up their software development centers in India. Rise of Indian IT companies. The late 1990s saw the emergence of Indian IT companies such as Infosys, TCS, and Wipro. These companies provided software development and IT services to clients worldwide, leading to a rapid growth of the Indian IT industry. Focus on quality. Indian IT companies differentiated themselves from their global counterparts by providing high-quality services at a lower cost. The emphasis on quality and cost-effectiveness helped Indian IT companies to compete successfully in the global market. Government support. The Indian government provided support to the IT sector by introducing policies and initiatives that encouraged the growth of the sector. These policies included tax incentives, infrastructure development. Indian IT sector contributions to Indian economy. The Indian IT sector has made significant contributions to the Indian economy in several ways. Here are some of the key contributions of the IT sector to the Indian economy. Employment generation. The IT sector is one of the largest employers in India, providing direct and indirect employment to millions of people. According to industry estimates, the sector employs over 4.5 million people, and this number is expected to grow in the future. Foreign exchange earnings. The IT sector is a major contributor to India's foreign exchange earnings. The sector accounts for more than 7% of the country's total exports, and its contribution to foreign exchange earnings is expected to increase in the future. GDP growth. The IT sector has been a significant contributor to India's GDP growth. According to industry estimates, the sector accounts for around 8% of India's GDP, and its contribution to the country's economic growth is expected to continue in the future. Innovation and entrepreneurship. The IT sector has been a catalyst for innovation and entrepreneurship in India. The success of Indian IT companies has inspired many entrepreneurs to start their own ventures, leading to the emergence of a vibrant startup ecosystem in the country. Digital transformation. The IT sector has played a significant role in the digital transformation of the Indian economy. The sector has enabled the government and businesses to adopt digital technologies and platforms, leading to greater efficiency and productivity. Social impact. The IT sector has also had a positive social impact on the country. It has helped to bridge the digital divide and provided access to information and services to people in remote and rural areas. The sector has also contributed to the development of education, healthcare, and other social sectors through digital technologies. Importance. Human resource development, HRD. HRD is critical for the growth and success of any organization or country. Here are some of the reasons why HRD is important. Improved performance. HRD programs help to improve the skills, knowledge, and competencies of employees, leading to improved performance and productivity. By investing in the development of their employees, organizations can enhance their competitiveness and achieve their goals more effectively. Increased employee satisfaction, HRD. Succession planning, innovation, HRD programs can foster a culture of innovation and creativity by encouraging adaptability, HRD. Social impact, HRD programs can also have a positive social impact by providing employees with the skills and knowledge needed to make a difference in their communities. By investing in their employees' development, organizations can contribute to the development of society as a whole. Measures of human development. Human resource development, HRD, is critical for the growth and success of individuals, organizations, and countries. Here are some measures of human development that can be used to assess the effectiveness of HRD programs. Education. Education is a critical component of human development. It can provide individuals with the knowledge and skills needed to succeed in their personal and professional lives. Measures of education include literacy rates, enrollment rates, and graduation rates. Health. Health is another important aspect of human development. Access to healthcare, nutrition, and clean water can improve the well-being and productivity of individuals. Measures of health include life expectancy, infant mortality rates, and access to healthcare. Income. Income is a key factor in determining an individual's quality of life. It can provide individuals with the resources needed to meet their basic needs and pursue their goals. Measures of income include gross domestic product, GDP, per capita, poverty rates, and income inequality. Gender equality. Gender equality is an important measure of human development. It can promote social and economic inclusion, leading to greater opportunities for individuals and communities. Measures of gender equality include gender wage gaps, representation in leadership positions, and access to education and healthcare. Environment. The environment is a critical component of human development. A clean and healthy environment can provide individuals with the resources needed to thrive. Measures of the environment include air and water quality, access to natural resources, and measures of environmental sustainability. Human Development Index. The Human Development Index, HDI, is a composite statistic used to measure and rank countries' level of human development. In human resource development, there are several major thrust areas in human resource training and development. This involves providing employees with the knowledge, skills, and abilities needed to perform their jobs. Performance management. This involves succession planning. This involves identifying and developing employees who have talent acquisition. This involves employee engagement. This involves creating a work environment that is engaging and motivating for employees. Engaged employees are more productive, innovative, and committed to the organization's goals.